Alright everybody, today we're looking at my Gudgeon and T Bar tank, and we're going to focus on my T Bar when it comes out of hiding. I can see him back there in the corner, but I'm going to go ahead and feed the tank, and I'm going to put a lot of flake food in there, or these crisps as they're called, and that should get everybody really nice and active, and that should bring the T Bar out and we can have a look at him while we discuss him. There's the T Bar coming out now off to the right. And these guys go through a lot of these crisps very quickly. The Gudgeon gulps them down whole, so I try to do a mix of putting them in there in complete pieces, and then I also try to break some up into smaller pieces so it gives the Rainbowfish something to look for and go around. And I usually do this once, sometimes twice a day. But I've been trying to grow those rainbows out, and I'm putting color enhancing food in there, so I'm trying to bring the color out in them as well. And so far it's working. They've got a long way to go, but the color really is starting to pop on those rainbows. Now what I wanted to talk about was my T Bar. I was told by someone the other day that that was a female, and I always thought it was a male. But this person seemed fairly confident. They told me that they knew that the males, or the females rather, were the ones that did all the digging, and so on and so forth. So I sort of took their word for it and just half-heartedly mentioned that I believed it was a female, based on what this viewer had said in a video I shot yesterday or the day before. And I had a couple people respond telling me that they believe also that it is a male. So I did a little bit of research this morning, and I found out that it is a male, as I suspected all along. And the easiest way to tell is just looking at the fins. If you can see the dorsal fin and the caudal fin, both taper to these very elaborate elongated points that stretch all the way back the full length of the caudal fin, or the tail fin. So the dorsal fin actually runs the full length of the animal, all the way to the back end of the tail fin. Now, the coloration could be a little bit of a question. It's commonly said that the females tend to have more yellow or orange in their fins than the males do, and the males tend to have more blue. So in my research and in my reading around, I found that there are actually a lot of color variants within acceptable normal parameters, and it's not entirely unusual to get a male that's got some more yellow than you might expect to see in its fins, which we have in this case. There's still plenty of blue in there, and it is lined with that black tracery, but there's a lot of yellow in there too. So that's not necessarily rules it out as being male. And honestly, the fact that there's a little bit of yellow in there is the only thing that would tend to indicate that it might be female. And that's certainly not enough for me to override all of the other evidence that it's a male. Every source I looked up said the male is the one that does the digging and the nest building, not the female. And then, of course, we keep coming back to the fins. There's just no way that a female is going to have fins that elaborate. The females have much more blunted and rounder fins, much the way gouramis do. If you're familiar with looking at gourami species, the females have more of a rounded sort of teardrop fin, whereas the males have a much more elongated and pointed dorsal and anal fin. They're both very, very elongated and very noticeably pointy compared to the females. And in this case, with this fish, even the pectoral fins, even the pelvic fins are very elongated and have filaments on the end, which is also indicative of being male. The only other thing that someone might say is that a lot of cichlids will develop a notchal hump on the males, and this one clearly does not have a notchal hump. That other person that pointed out that they thought this was a female pointed that out as well. And in my research, I found that not all males develop a notchal hump. Breeding pressure, the presence of a female, things like that will impact the rate of growth. This is not an old animal. I've only had this one for maybe 2 years. So while it is certainly sexually mature, it's not a very fully developed and older animal. They live about 7 years on average, so it's entirely possible that that sort of forehead hump might begin to develop over time, but never be really fully pronounced like you might expect it to see in some of these more exaggerated animals. And then, of course, when you get into things like flower horns, they've been artificially bred to have the very exaggerated hump on the forehead like that. So not seeing a big hump does not mean that it's not female. We're having really bad windy storms out today, and that's the third time today my power has cut out and then shut back on, or I'll shut off and then cut back on very, very quickly like that. So I got my gas all ready to go. My generator's out and ready to run. Should I need it today? And yeah, we're not going to have any problems if the power goes out for any more length of time than that, but it's getting a little annoying, and that really rattled me and threw me off my game. But that's really all I wanted to talk about, is I just wanted to discuss how you can tell your cichlid is male versus female. The general rule of thumb, it's almost always holds true, is the males will have the more elongated and more elaborate fins, and in the case of the sagicas, or the species that are all related convicts, are in the same family, their caudal and anal fin should extend all the way, their dorsal and their anal fin should extend all the way to the tip of their caudal fin, or their tail fin. And that is one sure way to indicate that you're dealing with a male and not a female. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up and go around and check all my other tanks, make sure all the lights and everything came back on. In fact, I can see right now that the lights in my angelfish tank have not come back on. They do have an emergency sort of reset button. If they shut off, they won't come right back on. You got to turn them off and let them cool down before they'll light back up. So I'm going to get on with that. Thanks for watching this one. Please subscribe if you're not already. That way you won't miss anything else I got coming up. You never know what you're going to get with me. So thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry for a little disruption there. Hopefully we won't have anything worse throughout the rest of the day. And I will see you real soon on the next one.